Who's got a cape, a cowl, and 2 pointy ears? You got it. It's Batman. Hey toy fans, so let me just go off and say there's a lot of Batman toys out there. So much it's kind of hard to keep up with. I mean, I was going to the Batman was his ytb.com, which has pretty much all the toys available, and still there were some missing from my collection that's on this list. So my top 5 is going to be my top 5 favorite Batman from my toy collection. Now, just keep in mind, I still have a lot of other Batman I'd love to show, so maybe one day I can do one of the top 5 coolest gadgeted Batmans, or etc. Now, I do want you to know, there are some that never made it to my list because I don't actually own them anymore. And because I don't own them, I can't really say that they're in my collection. So maybe as time goes on, I can have those sorts of Batman in my top 5 list somewhere down the road. So don't fret if the Batman you like is not in this list. One day it may be, because I'm not really done talking about Batman. So let's start with my number 5, top 5 favorite Batman out of my collection that I have, and it's this one. It's the Apocalypse Batman from the Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice from Mattel. Alright, so my number 5 of the list is this Apocalypse style Batman. Now, I know a lot of people hated the Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. I happen to like the director's cut of it. I think it's kind of cool, but to me this is one of the coolest scenes in the Batman saga, because I love the idea of Batman having to trade to get this specialized weapon, and doing it to fight the Superman who in the end is going to turn bad. And I dig the look of it. It definitely looks like something out of a Frank Miller comic, and it makes me smile. A couple other things I really like. I love the fact that this weapon, in the movie he has a machine gun that he gets from a trooper, but since Warner Brothers has kind of a thing against, having machine guns shown for toys, what they did is they actually have this weapon. It's a combination of like a machine gun and actually what looks to be almost the EMP weapon from the Dark Knight movie. So it's either Dark Knight or the Dark Knight Rises. I'm trying to remember which one it is that he uses this on and kind of knocks out like the power. So it's pretty cool. I also love the look of his trench coat, that kind of gold on his belt, the fact that he's got the military style pants with his boots tucked over them, Like I love the look of this. The scarf, the goggles that come on and off. I think he's just a tough looking, bad hombre here. And I dig it. He looks good on my shelf. That's my number 5. I have to admit, that was a pretty wicked scene in that movie. Alright, so we're looking at my number 4 Batman. This one was one that I kind of got recently. I never had this when it originally came out, but I did find that I really did like this Batman a lot. My number 4 Batman is the Battle Gear Batman from Batman Begins, also made by Mattel. Alright, so my number 4 here is the Batman Begins Battle Gear Batman. And I love this figure because when you really break down and get down to the meat of this figure, he really is just a Batman Begins action figure. And I love the different tones we get. We get a kind of a semi-gloss throughout most of his uniform, and then a high gloss Batman emblem on his chest. It really does look the part of Christian Bale. There's some really good eye work here where we get to see the iris. It's like reflective light on the pupil. The gold belt is nice and solid through here. For the time we got really good articulation with this figure too. And I just, I dig it. I love how they dealt with the cowl here with the cape. And the fact that the cape has that nice wingtip portion on the bottom. But what made this one even cooler is the fact that he's got a case that's got Wayne Enterprises Applied Sciences Division on there, and you open it up, and it's basically a toolkit for all of his stuff. Let me see if I can get all, yeah, just like this. It's kind of a toolkit. And you know, he's got this, looks like a what is that, monocle looking thing. I was trying to say monocle, but I know that's not actually a word. His horn's in the way. Yeah, monocle sort of thing where he can, you know, I guess like check out data, look for footprints, that sort of thing. And then he has, out of this, oh, it's all coming out until now. And he also has this batarang, and the batarang is able to fold up. You can fold it back out. So if he wants to throw a batarang, he can. Fold it down like that. And then the last part, which is really cool, is he had this grapple gun, and it was one of those where you pull it out and then you go, and it just pops back into place. So you could put that in his hand, and he could grapple up wherever he needed to go. And you could fold that up and put that over there. I think the one thing that kicked me about this is that I've got the Tumbler Batmobile, and I love that Batmobile, and the figure looks great in it, but there was not enough room to put the case, and I think that was a big killer for me, is I really wanted the case to be able to kind of like store away in the side of the tumbler, so I could take that with him, and he could, you know, pull out and get his tools ready whenever he needed. That's pretty cool. I like the case too. All right, so we're down to my number 3. So my number 3 Batman, actually, interesting enough, doesn't have a movie appearance at all, though it'd be kind of cool if they ever did a movie of this, which I really doubt they will. But my number 3 is actually from Funko. It's the Savage World Batman. Alright, and of course my number 3 is Funko's Savage World Batman. I'm a huge fan of Masters Universe as it is, so to have basically a DC version of Masters Universe done in this kind of a Conan the Barbarian, that sort of thing here, just makes me smile. Like all the way down to that beat up shield, to the the cool, heavy sword, even the bearskin style sort of like wrap, and the kind of sewn up, cowl and everything. Like this just, it makes me smile. I absolutely love this figure. And it was one of those that I liked this figure enough that not only did I, kind of buy into him because, I really dug him, but I ended up getting the castle for him and a whole bunch of the other DC characters. And I'm actually still in the market to get the wolf that he writes on because, I don't know, he's just that cool. The paint app is spectacular. The play really feels like an old school muscle-bound He-Man style character, and he looks great. And I really dig him because of that. I like him because he's all like roared it out like, "Urgh." Alright, so we're down to my number 2, right? My number 2 Batman out of my collection. This is one that as soon as I saw that it was available and that it was part of a Build-A-Fig and the other Build-A-Fig characters within the line were like amazing, I really had to get this, and I was very, very much just happy that I did because it has some really cool gadgets and overall is a pretty good figurine. It is Wave 10 of DC Universe Classics Black Suited Batman. So my number 2 really kind of, harkens back to the 1989 Batman, but also really falls in that line of some of the comics that were happening during that time. So I really dig this Batman. I remember, trying to dress up as Batman for, the 1989 Halloween sort of days, and remembering getting a belt kind of like this, where it was just like the standard comic book Batman belt, but it was done in this bright yellow. And this was not an uncommon thing, as that, this was the pattern that everybody was getting. This Batman happens to bring me back to, my summer of 1989 and, my love for Batman, because the movie is really what kind of got me back into it. Not the old school TV show with Adam West and Burt Ward. It was the movie that made me feel that, hey, Batman can be more than just a laugh. And with this black suited Batman, which I always thought was super cool, like I love the look of him, even on package. He has this really cool kind of metallic blue batarang. It's a type that looks like it folds up and has maybe a bomb on the inside. But what really sold me more than anything else was this really cool bat computer. You could fold that up and it's almost like this would, be stuck on his back. You could take it out, fold it out. Remember kind of like the batarang that he programmed where he was like doo-doo-doo-doo, and he threw it and Batman Returns? It's kind of what this reminds me of, except it's a whole computer with keyboards and buttons and screens, everything. And he could just travel around with this thing and, remote pilot, the Batwing if he wanted to. I mean, all sorts of stuff that he could do just from this one computer. I'm Batman. I like that computer thing. That's pretty awesome. All right. So we're down to my number one. Before I jump in and tell you my number one, a few things. If you haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe now. Be sure to hit that bell for notifications so you'll be alerted of anything that comes from me to you. Be sure to comment down below. I love chatting with you all. And honestly, if you got a top 5 of your favorite Batmans from your line, I'd like to know what they are. And be sure to like this video. It helps YouTube know that you like what I'm making. Alright, before I get into my number one, I also want to say this. Please don't judge me on this one. As much as I wanted a Kenner figure on this, it was one of those that I had to kind of choose this one because this one was my first Batman action figure that I absolutely loved. And it is Toy Biz's 1989 Batman. It is true, I'm not going to lie, I have a certain love for the 1989 Toy Biz Batman. And it's one of those that when you think about it, I mean, the Toy Biz Batman is not a very good Batman, though it was the first one we got that had a really good amount of movie accuracy. And I say that in that, his batarang looked a lot like the batarang from the movie. His harpoon gun looked a lot like the harpoon gun from the movie. His boots looked like the boots from the movie. His belts looked pretty close to what it was in the movie. And the same with his chest and his gloves and everything. This was the definitive Batman movie action figure at the time. And even though, the Dark Knight collection got really, really close with their Batmans, it still didn't feel completely movie accurate until you started getting like the Power Whip Batman, because the gloves didn't have the right sort of gloves until you got those particular figures. I mean, even in the back, you've got the same sort of, armor, shoulder pieces that he had when he fell down and then started getting beat in the back. I always thought this was such a cool Batman. And then, of course, he had this really cool play feature that allowed him to zip up on his zip line. And I really, really dug it. Now, I know there were some complaints about him having, more pieces than he can hold, but I always stick my batarang, on his cape like that, so that way he had it kind of stored away and it wasn't stuck anywhere else. And you have to admit, that was the first one we got back in 1989, and there's a certain love with them. Alright, so that's my top 5 Batman action figures that I love for my collection. I'll have more of these because, again, I really like Batman a lot. So expect to see more Batman things as the year goes on. And remember, they're not dolls. In this case, they're Batman action figures. When I'm not recording videos here on YouTube, I'm actually over on a podcast on marvindogmedia.com called Talking Toys with Taylor and Jeff. It's a really cool toy podcast. Be sure to check it out. Also, I need your help getting my YouTube channel to grow. Be sure to subscribe down below with that big red button. Hit that bell for notifications so you can be alerted of anything that comes from me to you. Like this video, it helps YouTube know that you like what I'm making, and comment down below. I like chatting with you all.